Good evening. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order, the Guthrie Public Schools Board of Education for Monday, June 13th, 2022. Would you please call the roll?
Pearson.
Present.
Davis.
Here.
Smedley.
Here.
Gerard.
Here.
Schroeder.
Here.
Flagg.
Here.
Salee. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we begin this meeting, let us pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. The first item on is comments to the board.
We have no registered citizens to speak.
Are there any comments by board members this evening? Okay. We'll move right into the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. First item, we had a tremendous evening for graduation on May 20th. Much thanks to the staff of the Lazy E Arena for their assistance and hospitality. In the past, their administration has been reluctant to commit the use of the building until they were sure a multi-day event was not interested in renting the venue. We have planned discussions with them about other options to secure a date for this next year, and hopefully have that date secured well in advance of when families would need to notify the people that would attend for their graduate. I think that when we moved the event, the last 2 years we've moved it there, I know that caused a little bit of some concern with some parents, and we're trying to work through that with the Lazy E, and Mr. LeGrand and I are going to actually sit down with them tomorrow to discuss that. Good news from our summer meal participation. It's continuing to increase. We're averaging 244 breakfasts and 322 lunches served daily. So between breakfast and lunch, we have served 3,402 meals over the first 6 days. Wow. So that's good stuff. So now I'll get on to some other stuff. The legislative session closed since our last regular meeting, and education was given a flat budget, and the governor has called them back into special session because he wanted significant tax cuts. The legislators that were serving during the teacher walkout have tried to tell the governor what tax cuts mean given the high bar we have as a state to raise taxes. Despite the discussions, Governor Stitt attributed warning signs issued from the members of the House and Senate to PTSD by those legislators. As a response today, a bill was filed in the House of Representatives by members of the governor's own party to reduce the governor's budget by 53% for next year. Obviously, it's an election year. More about the legislature, they attributed the flat education budget and what they have allocated for education to the influx of ARPA dollars, the federal COVID money that schools have received. And the notion that school districts should fund recurring costs with one-time funds, when paired with the current rate of inflation at 8%, and the governor discussing tax cuts, sends school districts toward a funding cliff that is perilous at best. Just an example, our current property insurance for the district, which with the current quote has increased by 62%, or $238,000 for next year based on the latest quote. There's only one carrier in Oklahoma which will currently insure schools. We have explored other carriers, but we are working to refine our coverage so that our premium could be lowered somewhat. It won't be we're not going to cover the $238,000 that it went up, though, I can assure you. Because of this work, we will be required to have a special board meeting sometime between now and July 1st to approve the coverages, but were not able to formulate such a recommendation for tonight's meeting. I apologize, board members, but we have been working diligently, but it is simply not possible. In fact, we spent the better part of the morning working on this today. With all that bad news, I can tell you that we are in a financial position where we can sustain the increased costs at this time. It ultimately becomes a decision based on needs and not wants. Fortunately, thanks to good planning, we can fund our needs at this time. Next item, obviously, with the events in Uvalde, Texas, I was intentional about my timing of releasing an article that talked about what we have done as a district over the last 10 years. And I wanted to thank this board for their support of those efforts. As we look at where our district is, we are doing a lot and are being as proactive as any district I know of in order to ensure the safety of our students. And so I want to thank the board for their support of those efforts. And the last item that I have, a week ago Sunday, we lost a person that is very dear to our education community in Clay Tarter. I considered Clay a good friend, a colleague, and he's had a huge impact on the lives of our students. And services are scheduled for 10:30 a.m. tomorrow at Community Church. And I would ask that we all keep the Tarter family and the Oaks family in our thoughts and prayers. That's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Simpson. The next item on our agenda this evening is the consent agenda. Is there anything that needs to be pulled this evening? Motion's in order.
I
I make a
move
motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Flagg,
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. On our business agenda this evening, item 9A, recommendation, consideration, and action upon renewal of the financial service agreement with Municipal Financial Services Incorporated for 2022-2023.
That's not the reason that John is here. We've got some other things to do, but this is an annual item that we bring to the board to renew the services that we have with municipal finance. If you have questions, Michelle can answer them. I'd recommend approval.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we renew service agreement with Municipal Finance Services for 2022-2023.
Second.
There's a motion and second to approve the agreement, the financial services agreement with Municipal Finance Service for 2022-2023. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Flagg,
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
Item 9B, recommendation, consideration, and action upon amendment to renew agreement with Clearwater Enterprises for the purchase of third-party natural gas for 2022-2023.
This is an item that Michelle and I looked very closely at, given the events of 2 years ago. And we looked carefully at our provider and also looked carefully at the way the rate was structured, and we made some subtle changes to it to accommodate what we think will be best for the district, and would recommend approval.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the agreement with Clearwater Enterprises for the purchase of third-party natural gas for 2022-2023.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the agreement with Clearwater Enterprises for the purchase of third-party natural gas for 2022-2023. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Gerard.
Yes.
Schroeder.
Yes.
Flagg.
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item 9C, recommendation, consideration, and action upon temporary appropriations for 2022-2023 for the General Fund, Building Fund, Child Nutrition Fund, Gifts and Endowment Fund, and Insurance Casualty Fund.
This is a necessary item that we bring to the board every June so that we can continue operations in advance until we get a budget approved, and recommend approval.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the temporary appropriations for 2022-23 for the General Fund, the Building Fund, the Child Nutrition Fund, Gifts and Endowments Fund, and Insurance Casualty Fund.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to approve item 9C. Is there any further discussion at this time? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Gerard.
Yes.
Schroeder.
Yes.
Flagg.
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item 9D, recommendation, consideration, and action upon the 2021-2022 revised appropriation of federal funds for Child Nutrition Fund.
This item is on your agenda and is necessary because of, and Michelle, if I butcher this, correct me, because of the outstanding participation that we've had in our Child Nutrition Fund, and the expenses that are incurred with that, we need to increase the appropriations. So that's a good thing.
Mr. President, I make a motion, we approve the 2021-2022 revised appropriations of federal funds for Child Nutrition Fund.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to approve item 9D. Is there any further discussion at this time? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Gerard.
Yes.
Schroeder.
Yes.
Flagg.
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item 9E, the recommendation, consideration, and action upon renewal with OSAG for workers' compensation insurance coverage for 2022-2023.
This renewal comes with a $37,000 increase in premium, and I guess we should feel better about that than the property insurance increase. Obviously, that is concerning, and some of that is driven by some of the losses that we've had as a district, and that we've got to work on and attempt to address with our training. But recommend approval.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the renewal with OSAG for workers' compensation insurance coverage for 2022-2023.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to approve item 9E. Is there any further discussion at this time? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Gerard.
Yes.
Schroeder.
Yes.
Flagg.
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item 9F, recommendation, consideration, and action upon renewal agreement with Aurora Learning Community Association, ALCA, for 2022-2023.
Pages 111 through 117 of your packet, and I apologize, I was not announcing those, and I normally do, but that's an agreement that we have that we renew annually with ALCA. They are our data warehouse for student achievement and benchmark testing, and we are very pleased with their services. Would recommend approval.
I'll make a motion to renew the agreement with the Aurora Learning Community Association for 2022 and 2023.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor to approve item 9F. Is there any further discussion at this time? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Gerard.
Yes.
Schroeder.
Yes.
Flagg.
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item 9G, recommendation, consideration, and action upon elementary student handbook for 2022-2023.
Pages 118 through 141, we're trying to get a little bit of a head start on our handbooks because the elementary principals were able to work through this before they left on their time off their contract. And The changes here, as we discussed in committee meetings, are minimal and nothing earth-shattering. If you have questions, Carmen Walters will be glad to answer them. Recommend approval.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the elementary student handbook for 2022-2023.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve item 9G. Is there any further discussion at this time? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item 9H, recommendation, consideration, and action on the following appointments for 2022-2023. Michelle Chappell, Purchasing Agent, Tammy Jones, Encumbrance Clerk, Jana Wanzer, Treasurer, Anita Paul, Assistant Treasurer, Samantha Stewart, Clerk of the Board and Minutes Clerk, Carrie Jarrett, Deputy Clerk of the Board and Deputy Minutes Clerk.
This is an annual item that we bring at the June agenda in order to, it's required by law that we name these folks, and it is board approved, and we would recommend approval.
Mr. President, I move to approve the following appointments as listed for 2022-2023.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to approve item 9H. Is there any further discussion at this time? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay. Item 9I, recommendation, consideration, and possible action on a copier vendor for the district.
You have at your seat a recommendation by Mr. Benson. He is here tonight to answer any questions you might have. Page 142 of your board packet is a qualitative tally sheet for the vendors that submitted their bids on the RFP. And the recommendation is with Stanley Systems. Dee, what would you like to offer? Why don't you come up so that the microphone can get you too?
We had 6 vendors that showed up at the pre-bid meeting. We had 5 that turned in bids, so we were really pleased with that. Stanley Systems was the best bid, and as you can see by the tally sheet, it was pretty close. There were really good bids, and our current vendor we're not unhappy with, but Stanley definitely had a little bit better deal for us. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you.
Does have any questions of Dee? This is something we do this every 5 years, correct?
Every 4 years.
4 years, okay.
We found 5 years is just pushing them
Yeah.
too far.
Yeah.
And who's our current vendor?
Sumner one. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. President, I move that we approve Stanley Systems as the copier vendor for the district.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to accept Stanley Systems as the copier vendor for the district. Is there any further discussion at this time? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item 9J, recommendation, consideration, and action upon memorandum of understanding between Oklahoma State University and Guthrie Public Schools for OK Thrive induction program.
Pages 143 and 144 of your board packet. This is an item that Oklahoma State brought to us, and it's designed to offer additional support to first-year teachers that are coming from Oklahoma State. Years ago, back when I was in that boat, we had a program by the State Department of Education for mentorship, and it was funded by the State Department of Education. And as budgets changed and things like that, those programs have gone away, and Oklahoma State's recognized the need to provide more supports to to our first-year teachers that they are sending us. And so we feel like it will be similar to what we did way back then, because we would have a college person come in from the university that they graduated from, as well as a mentor teacher. And we've assigned mentor teachers to first-year teachers as a practice, but this gives them additional support, and it's just for Oklahoma State incoming teachers at this time, but I think that there's possible appetite to increase that going forward if the program proves successful. And Mr. Ogle has more information about it if you would like. Is there anything I missed, Doug, that's okay?
No.
Chair entertains a motion at this time.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we accept the memorandum of understanding between Oklahoma State University and Guthrie Public Schools for OK Thrive induction program.
I'll second.
There's a motion on the floor to approve item 9J. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item 9K, recommendation, consideration, and action to ratify the lease purchase financing agreement for Oklahoma LED project.
This is page 145 through 149. This is the last time that we will have to ratify this agreement. As Michelle, we have 2 payments left?
September is the last payment.
Okay, so we just have a few payments left. Remember, this is our LED conversion from way back when, a 6-year item that we did and financed it through the lease purchase agreement. And so we are on the tail end of that, and thankful for being able to do that, and look forward to burning the mortgage, so to speak. But we will need to approve this agreement going into this fiscal year to finish out those payments.
I'll make a motion to approve the ratification of the lease purchase financing agreement of Oklahoma LED project.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve item 9K. Is there any further discussion on the item? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item 9L, consider and vote to approve a resolution pertaining to the district's $10,500,000 general obligation building bonds, Series 2022A, including fixing the amount of the bonds to mature each year, fixing the time and place the bonds are to be sold, approving the preliminary official statement and authorizing distribution of same, authorizing the clerk to give notice of said sale as required by law, and approving other matters related to the issuance of bonds.
Let me interject at this point. One of the things that Mr. Wolf and I have worked diligently on over the past 6 or 7 months is with the changing of the economy in the U.S. and the rising interest rates that we are faced with. This is a very significant issue that we had originally wanted to start construction of Cotterill Elementary, which is a large portion of what the bonds we're going to sell in July are for. We'd hope to start that this fall. With the anticipated interest rate that we expect to receive with this bond sale, it will push the amount of money that we can receive further back into 2024. And so we will not get as much money on the front end of this as we had anticipated with all of the other models. What does that mean? That means that we're going to be forced to delay the start of construction of Cotterill Elementary at least until the spring of '23. Now, keep in mind that what we promised the voters was that we probably would not even start construction until '24. We had accelerated this thanks to our ARPA money, our COVID money, whatever you want to call it. We had accelerated it because we were able to front load some of these other projects through federal funds that we put on the bond issue. With the change in the interest rates, and John can speak to that, but with the rising interest rates that are going to be, that we're going to receive, the only way to fund this is we will still get the same amount of money that we had bonded for, but it's going to be later because it will take longer to pay off the debt. Did I explain that?
Yes.
Okay. And so that, I think it's significant that the community, the board, and everyone involved understand that it's going to happen, but it's not going to happen as soon as we had hoped for it to. But we will still be able to do what we promised the voters we were going to do.
So it'll still be a year ahead of what we promised,
Yes.
but not a year and a half or 2
Yes.
years.
Yeah. And we know that we need that building done yesterday. But the financing of this requires time in order to pay off the debt that we've incurred with Charter Oak, et cetera. With that being said, I would turn it over to John for whatever he would like to share about the sale of the bonds and the resolution.
Good evening. Anyone new since I spoke last? Because I certainly want to drag you through.
Right.
I think you might be there. All right. Just a couple things I want to address. End of last week, you should have got a preliminary official statement, a 35, 40-page document. It's actually the story of Guthrie Public Schools that we tell investors as to your ability to pay back the debt, what your economy looks like, what your school district looks like as far as trends and growth and where you're at financially, where you're at student count-wise, that when you go to the market, you're going to be competing against sales that are anywhere between 100 to a half a billion a day in bond sales, sometimes more than $1 billion. And so you go out to the market with general obligation bonds, and there will be some competition. So what we look at is, what Dr. Simpson addressed, is where do we think the market's going to be? And that's a guess. We're not selling the bonds until July 11th. So we're guessing where the interest rates might be based on historically. Well, this is the most volatile market in the last 3 or 4 months than we've seen in forever. You'll have interest rates go up 0.5% one week, and the next week they'll go down 0.5%, and then they'll go back up 3/4, and it's been like that for the last 2 to 3 months. And so when you think about 0.5%, 1/4, whatever, how you address it in your mind is, well, that's bean counting, that's fine, whatever it is. That affects you tremendously as to what you can do, and that's what Dr. Simpson addressed. But to not forget, we are ahead of what we were projecting when you receive federal dollars for COVID. And so what you have in front of you tonight is the agenda items, this agenda items more specifically, that will authorize us to take this to the market. And our goal, our target, our promise to the community was 17 mil cap. And that's why we can't do more than the 10.5. Now, 17 mil cap is a target we try to meet, and we've been under that in most cases since the election was approved. There are 2 things that we don't know. We don't know what the rates are, interest rates will be. We also do not know what your net assessed valuation growth will be when that comes out in August. And that will have a factor too. And I think we assumed a 4% growth. 4.5% growth on for the district. We've seen a lot of growth here lately.
But we moved it to 5.5 for this last year and this coming year.
Yeah. The key thing is, are we going to see the growth that everyone is seeing in house pricing? Is that going to roll over with the county assessor's office? Are they going to take that into account? Obviously, where you have new sales and they have 3 ways that they can assess property, but comps are key now because of what you've seen in the market. So hopefully 5.5 is very reachable. We'll see. We'll know here probably by, I don't know, 15th of August, 10th of August. Still, you need to have public service numbers come from the tax commission that has the assessments on all your public service property. So the rest of you, I'd be glad to answer any questions. You've heard this before, but with a new member, the document we provided to you is for you to review, but you get a second chance as a governing body that you are authorizing the president of the board to continue to work with staff, with us. If there are any changes, albeit immaterial, we'll make those and before we send this out to market. So be glad to answer any questions that anyone has. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
Okay.
Resolution is on page 150 of your packet, and obviously recommend approval.
The chair would entertain a motion at this time for approval.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the district's $10.5 million general obligation building bond series 2022A, including fixing the amount of bonds to mature each year, fixing the time and place the bonds are to be sold, approving the preliminary official statement, and authorizing distribution of same, authorizing the clerk to give notice of said sale as required by law, and approving other matters related to the issuance of bonds.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve item 9L. Any further discussion at this time? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Smedley?
Yes.
Gerard?
Yes.
Schroeder?
Yes.
Salee?
Yes.
Flagg?
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item 9M, consider and vote to approve a contract with Bank First Oklahoma City, Oklahoma to serve as the registrar and paying agent on the district's $10.5 million general obligation building bonds, Series 2022A.
This is an item that we always bring with bond sales. We have to designate a paying agent, and we have chosen Bank First in the past, and they have served us well. Recommend approval.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the contract with Bank First of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma to serve as registrar and paying agent of the district's $10.5 million general obligation building bond series 2022A.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve item 9M. Is there any further discussion on the item? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Smedley?
Yes.
Gerard?
Yes.
Schroeder?
Yes.
Salee?
Yes.
Flagg?
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item 9N, consider and vote to approve a contract with Hilborn and Weedman, Tulsa, Oklahoma, to serve as bond counsel and disclosure counsel on the district's $10.5 million general obligation building bonds, Series 2022A.
It's pages 161 through 164. Again, this is a firm that we have used in the past as we are required to have bond counsel that are experts in that field, and would recommend approval.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the contract with Hilborn and Weedman, of Tulsa, Oklahoma, to serve as bond counsel and disclosure counsel of the district's $10.5 million general obligation building bond series 2022A.
Glad it's not just
Second.
me.
Sorry.
I thought it was just me. I'm glad.
I'll second that.
I feel bad.
There's a motion and a second to approve item 9N. Any further discussion at this time? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
Clag,
Yes.
790 nays.
Motion passes. Item 9O, recommendation, consideration, and action upon revision of District Policy F5, Student Transfers, and F5, Transfers Exhibit A.
Pages 165 through 171, I cautioned the board when we stepped into this transfer thing that we would be revising the policies multiple times, and that was the prediction of our attorney, and it's certainly proven true. The revisions that we have here reflect some changes that the legislature approved to allow us a little bit more flexibility with some things. The most important things, it extends to district employees beyond certified staff to support employees as well. If a student has been with us for 3 consecutive years and they move away, they can automatically be placed in our transfer pool without worry of capacity, similar to what I'm saying about employees. And also siblings are accepted regardless of capacity. If one is eligible, then the whole family is eligible. And the other operative thing that came out of that, but is not necessarily in this policy because it's not necessary, is that the students that have been on a transfer with our district prior to these changes do not figure into the capacity either. And so we're not in. The thing that really concerned me is we could have a student, the way the law was written, we could have a student that had been a transfer student in our district in good standing, and if their class was over capacity, then it would necessitate us asking them to not be a student at Guthrie anymore. And I was vehemently opposed to that, and I'm thankful that we have corrected that. And then the other part of this action, by approving this policy the way that it is, we are required quarterly to approve the capacities, and I intentionally left Exhibit A as part of this so that your action tonight will also approve those, not changing those capacities from what they've been in the past. I think that the end result of this is very workable, but it's like a lot of things when it comes to the state legislature, and I'm really on them tonight. But sometimes you feel like you're driving through Tulsa to get to Wichita, and I think that's kind of what we've done with this legislation. But nevertheless, I think we're going to end up kind of where it'll be beneficial for the district and our kids. If you've got any questions about the policy or anything, I can try to answer them.
Mr. President, motion to approve the revision to District Policy F5 Student Transfers and F5 Transfers Exhibit A.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to approve item 9O. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
Clag,
Yes.
790 nays.
Motion passes. Item 10, proposed executive session for the purpose of discussing employment of personnel, FMLA request, resignation, separation from employment, and transfer of position request, all set out on the personnel reports. Extra duty assignments is listed for 2022-2023, teacher negotiations for 2022-2023, periodic evaluation of Dr. Michael Simpson, superintendent of schools, disclosure of which information would violate the confidentiality requirements of state and/or federal law, all pursuant to 25 Oklahoma statutes, section 307B, 1, 2, and 7.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to go into executive session. Roll call vote, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes.
Okay, only items in Agenda 10 were discussed. In executive session, no votes were taken. This shall constitute the executive session minutes. So agenda item 11, vote on action to set out on the personnel reports.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the personnel reports.
Second?
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 12, action upon recommendation of extra duty assignments for 2022 to 2023.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the extra duty assignments for 2022-2023.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 13, recommendation, consideration, and action for statutory waiver or deregulation which allows Ms. Sable Crawford to be employed as library media specialist at Guthrie Upper Elementary School for 2022-2023 school year. You have a motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the statutory waiver deregulation, which allows Ms. Sable Crawford to be employed as the library media specialist at Guthrie Upper Elementary School for 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 14, recommendation, consideration, and action to accept any resignations offered since the posting of the agenda.
We have one resignation for consideration tonight, and it's Brenda Prescott, kindergarten, or first grade teacher at Fogarty. Recommend acceptance.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the resignation of Brenda Prescott, first grade teacher at Guthrie Elementary.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley,
Yes.
Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 15, discussion and possible action on new business not known about or could not have been reasonably foreseen at the time of the agenda posting.
We have none.
Agenda item 16, motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Smedley, Gerard,
Yes.
Schroeder,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.